The Zifra citadel floated above a dying star, a fortress of glass and alloy where the most ancient races of the Alliance gathered to measure the worth of species. Its spires glimmered like knives against the pale light, and its halls carried the echo of judgment. Commander Elias Kale stood in the center of the Grand Council chamber, shackled at the wrists, the floor beneath him a circle of obsidian that reflected his outline like a shadow trying to crawl free. Around him, tiers of alien delegates observed, their forms cloaked in silks, scales, or luminous exquisites. Thousands of eyes, compound, slit-pupilled, or glowing, focused on the single human standing alone. At the highest dais sat High Inquisitor Vaynar of the Ketheri Dominion. His tall, angular frame was draped in crimson robes lined with metallic runes that pulsed faintly. His face was sharp, carved with the patience of centuries. His voice, when it came, resonated through the chamber as if the air itself bent to carry his contempt. Humanity, Vaynar began, letting the word drip like acid, is accused of destabilizing the balance of the Alliance. Reckless expansion, refusal to submit to established order, defiance against Dominion authority. You are fire loose in the void. His gaze fixed on Kale. And fire must either be contained or extinguished. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some species hissed their approval. Others shifted uneasily, unwilling to declare themselves. Humanity was the youngest member of the Alliance, admitted only 2 decades ago. Many still saw them as an experiment, a gamble. Kale straightened his back, the chains clinking faintly. His body still bore the scars of earlier wars, the jagged line across his jaw, the stiff movements of a soldier who had learned to endure pain. Yet his voice came steady. Humanity is guilty of survival, he said, each word sharp. We never asked to be fragile. We never asked to be underestimated. Yet here we stand. Vaynar's lips curved in something between disdain and amusement. You stand because I allow it. Do not mistake circumstance for strength. Every species that has stood where you stand has broken. The council chamber fell quiet. That was the weight of Vaynar's authority. He was not simply a judge, but a breaker of civilizations. Kale met his gaze without flinching. Then maybe you've never tested a human properly. The words, bold as a blade unsheathed, drew a low growl from the Inquisitor's throat. Around the chamber, whispers swelled, some shocked, some impressed. A delegate of the Quarati, a crystalline being whose voice rang like chimes, leaned forward. Commander Kale, you speak for your species? Alone? Kale nodded. Alone if I must. Humanity does not yield its dignity to numbers. The declaration spread through the tiers like a shockwave. Some aliens chuckled at the arrogance. Others stared at Kale with new weight in their eyes. Vaynar rose from his throne, robes whispering across the dais. Then let us see the strength of your vaunted species. He raised one clawed hand, and the floor beneath Kale shimmered, transforming into a platform of cold steel. The chamber darkened, leaving only Kale and the Inquisitor in a cone of pale light. This is no mere trial, Vaynar declared, voice echoing. This is the trial of endurance. The mind, the body, and the spirit will be tested. Humanity's fate rests not in the words of diplomats, but in whether one man can endure what the galaxy itself has designed to break him. Kale's chains tightened, binding him to the platform. He felt the weight of 1,000 gazes bearing down, not just as witnesses but as predators waiting to see if the prey stumbled. His throat was dry, yet his mind remained sharp. I've been tested before, he said evenly. Wars. Losses. You can break bones, Inquisitor, but you can't break what carried us through centuries of fire. Vaynar tilted his head, studying him like a specimen. Confidence is the first illusion. We will strip it from you piece by piece. Kale's reply came quick, almost too quiet for the chamber, yet clear enough to carry. Good luck. The words landed like a gauntlet thrown. A low laugh escaped Vaynar, though there was no humor in it. He gestured to the council. Let this be recorded. Humanity claims it cannot be broken. By dawn's cycle, the truth will be written into your bones. The chamber lights flared back, revealing the gallery of delegates. Some leaned forward eagerly, others sat frozen, but all were compelled. The stage was set. Cale's pulse hammered, but he let no fear show. He thought of Earth, the storms over the Atlantic, the endless deserts of Africa, the ruins that had been rebuilt 1,000 times. He thought of the people, flawed and stubborn, who had refused extinction in every age. He was here not as one man, but as their sum. Vaynar descended from the dais, robes trailing, until he stood mere steps away from Cale. His eyes gleamed like obsidian under torchlight. "When I break you," he murmured, "your screams will echo across every world you claimed. Humanity will remember the day it was humbled." Cale leaned forward despite the chains, jaw tight, voice low but unshaken. "And when you fail, the galaxy will remember the day humanity proved it cannot be broken." The silence that followed was sharper than any blade. Even the star burning outside seemed to pause. The Inquisitor's expression froze, then twisted into a smile far too thin. He raised his hand once more. "Take him. Prepare the chamber." The chains jerked, pulling Cale toward the shadowed corridor at the chamber's edge. 2 towering Kethri guards seized his arms, their talons digging into the fabric of his uniform. Cale did not resist. His steps rang against the steel as he was dragged from the circle of light into darkness. He carried himself upright, every inch the soldier, every inch the envoy who knew the fate of a species pressed upon his shoulders. Behind him, the murmurs of the council rose into a storm. Some whispered that the human would shatter in hours. Others whispered the dangerous thought, that perhaps he would not. And in the center of it all, High Inquisitor Vaynar's voice cut like a verdict. "By tomorrow's rise, humanity will be broken." Cale's lips curved faintly, even as the corridor swallowed him. He whispered to himself, too quiet for any alien ear but steady enough for his own. "We'll see about that." The chamber smelled of iron and ozone, a cold tang that clung to the skin. Cale was chained upright to a frame of alloy that pulsed with faint blue currents. The walls were seamless metal, marked only by thin vents that exhaled sterile air. Above, lights glared down like watchful eyes. High Inquisitor Vaynar stood beyond the frame, hands folded behind his back. His crimson robes brushed the floor as he paced with the Predator's patience. 2 Kethri guards loomed at his sides, their chitinous armor glistening under the lights. "Every species begins this way," Vaynar said, his tone soft, almost instructional. "The body is the foundation of will. Shatter it, and the mind crumbles swiftly after." He gestured, and one guard tapped a control slate. The frame jolted. A surge of current ripped through Cale's body, snapping his muscles tight against bone. His jaw clenched, teeth grinding, but he forced himself not to scream. The pain was sharp, like molten wires threaded through his veins. When the current ceased, his chest heaved with ragged breath. Vaynar tilted his head. "You endure well. Most collapse at the first test. But pain compounds, Commander. It grows. No flesh can withstand endless breaking." Cale's lips curled faintly despite the burn in his nerves. "Funny. We used to think the same about limits. Then we kept pushing them further." The Inquisitor's eyes narrowed, though his voice stayed calm. "We'll see how far your species' myths carry you." Another gesture. This time the frame rotated, tilting Cale horizontally, suspending him face down above the floor. Jets of freezing mist blasted from the vents, covering his skin with frost. The chill bit deeper with each breath, sinking into joints and marrow. His body shook uncontrollably, but he forced his jaw steady. Images from memory flared unbidden, training drills in snowbound Siberia, soldiers laughing as they broke ice to drink water, the sting of wind that cut deeper than blades. He held on to those recollections, not as comforts but as proof. "You call this cold?" His voice was hoarse but steady. "You should visit Earth's poles in winter. Nature tried harder than this." The council delegates watching through projection feeds murmured. To some, his defiance was arrogance. To others, it was unsettling. Vaynar's expression remained unreadable. He raised one hand, and the mist ceased. The frame rotated upright again, chains clinking as Cale sagged against them. Steam lifted from his skin. "Defiance burns fast," Vaynar said. Let us see how long your fire lasts without air. The vents shifted. The chamber hissed as pressure changed. Cale felt the air thinning, each breath harder to draw. His lungs strained, chest rising shallowly. Stars flecked his vision as oxygen dwindled. The guards stood unmoving, used to watching beings suffocate. Cale's thoughts blurred, but he forced focus. He had seen suffocation before, in damaged ships where the atmosphere bled away, in rescue missions where helmets cracked. He remembered the terror in those moments, the fight for each breath, the refusal to quit even as vision dimmed. Humanity had always fought the void, had always clawed back air where none existed. He closed his eyes, controlled his breathing, took shallow sips of what little remained. Minutes stretched. Darkness tugged at the edges of thought, yet he clung to consciousness. Then, air rushed back into the chamber. Cale's lungs seized as oxygen flooded in. He coughed violently, body racked with spasms, but when he raised his head, his eyes were still sharp. The council gallery erupted with sound, gasps, exclamations, even low growls of disbelief. Vaynar studied him with a predator's patience. You resist. Impressive, yes. But unnecessary. You could beg, and it would end. You could submit, and your species might yet live. Cale forced a rasping laugh, voice raw. We don't beg. Never did. Never will. For the first time, the Inquisitor's composure flickered. His lips pressed in, a shadow of irritation crossing his features. He signaled again. The guards approached, each carrying a vial of translucent liquid that shimmered faintly with violet hues. Without ceremony, they injected the substance into Cale's veins. The burn spread instantly, acid under his skin, a fire that tore through muscle fibers. His body convulsed, sweat bursting across his brow. This toxin, Vaynar explained, his tone detached, was engineered to dismantle cellular structure. Most collapse within minutes. Some die. Cale bit down hard, every nerve screaming. He tasted blood where his teeth cut his lip. The fire coursed through him, but he refused to scream. He thought of marathons run to the brink of collapse, of miners working through lungs filled with dust, of explorers enduring fevers in alien jungles. Humanity had always fought poisons, always adapted. Through the haze of agony, he forced his head up. His voice was broken, but each word carried weight. You think this will end me? You don't understand what survival means. The toxin's glow gradually dulled in his veins. His breathing slowed. Against every expectation, his body endured. His pulse steadied, ragged but alive. Vaynar's eyes narrowed to slits. The silence in the chamber deepened, every delegate watching in disbelief. At last, the Inquisitor spoke, voice lower, edged with something colder. Perhaps your body is more stubborn than most. But flesh is only the first layer. The mind always betrays what the body hides. Tomorrow, we strip that from you as well. The guards unshackled Cale from the frame. His legs nearly buckled, but he forced them steady, standing upright despite the trembling in his muscles. His vision blurred at the edges, but he met Vaynar's gaze with iron focus. You've tried pain, cold, suffocation, poison, Cale said hoarsely. And still I stand. You can't break what was built to endure. For a long moment, silence reigned. Then Vaynar turned, his robes flaring like shadows made flesh. He spoke not to Cale, but to the council beyond the walls. Tomorrow, he said, voice like a verdict, the human mind will shatter. Cale's reply came as the guards dragged him toward the cell. His voice was faint but laced with steel. Tomorrow, you'll learn why it won't. Cale's cell was silent except for the faint hum of the Citadel's core systems. He lay against the cold wall, body bruised and sore, every muscle aching from the prior ordeals. Yet the pain was secondary. He knew what was coming. The body could resist, but the mind, that was where most faltered. When the door hissed open, light flooded in. Vaynar entered with deliberate calm, robes whispering against the floor. Behind him floated a device like a halo of glass shards orbiting a core of shifting light. Its faint hum pressed on Cale's skull before it even touched him. The body, Vaynar said smoothly, is crude. Pain, endurance, healing, they matter little in the end. But the mind, the mind is delicate. Fracture it, and all else follows. He gestured, and the device settled above Kale's head. Thin threads of energy descended, linking to his temples. Kale's world blurred. The walls dissolved. In their place he saw Earth, burning. Cities toppled, skies filled with ash, oceans boiling as firestorms raged. The vision was so precise, every detail rendered in agonizing clarity. His lungs filled with smoke that wasn't there. His heart raced with grief that felt real. Vaynar's voice drifted through the illusion like poison in water. Look upon your home. Every human screams. Every dream ends in ash. This is your species' destiny, fragile worlds, fragile minds, destined to collapse. Kale staggered within the vision, fists clenching though chains still bound him in the real chamber. He forced his eyes shut, but the images pressed harder, louder, families running, children crying, flames consuming everything he had fought to protect. His chest heaved. For a moment, despair clawed at him. Memories of fallen comrades returned, faces of soldiers who never came home, the hollow silence of loss. His mind whispered that perhaps Vaynar was right, that humanity's story was one of endings written in blood and fire. But then another memory surfaced. His grandmother's voice, telling stories of how their people had rebuilt after disasters, how cities rose from ruins, how laughter returned even after grief. He remembered music played in underground shelters, children sketching futures on scraps of paper while bombs fell above. Humanity had lived through endings before, and still continued. Kale opened his eyes, forcing himself to face the illusion. His voice, ragged but steady, cut through the roaring fire. You think we haven't seen this? We've lived it. We've buried our dead and kept walking. You're showing me echoes of our own scars, but scars are proof we healed. The flames flickered. Vaynar's expression tightened. With a gesture, he shifted the illusion. Now Kale stood on a battlefield littered with human corpses. Faces he knew, his old unit, fallen one by one. The stench of blood clung to the air. And among them, his own body, lifeless, eyes open in a vacant stare. Every soldier you led died, Vaynar whispered. You survived only to carry their weight. Did you believe endurance absolves you of guilt? You endure because you cannot let go. The accusation pierced deeper than poison. Kale had carried those ghosts for years. Nights when sleep evaded him, he heard their laughter fading into silence. His breath caught, throat tight, grief pressing in like chains heavier than any alloy. But guilt was not the whole of it. He remembered their last words, their determination, their refusal to abandon hope even as death closed in. They had fought not because they expected to survive, but because they wanted others to. Their sacrifice was not chains, it was fire passed forward. Kale's voice cracked, but it was filled with resolve. You call it guilt. I call it memory. Every face you show me, they're why I stand here. They didn't fall so I could break now. The illusion wavered. The corpses dissolved into smoke, though the weight of them remained carved in Kale's chest. Vaynar's composure thinned. His eyes darkened as he pressed his hand against the control slate, flooding the chamber with new waves of psychic distortion. Kale found himself in darkness, then in light, then nowhere at all. The illusions came faster now, worlds collapsing, his family screaming, his own voice begging for mercy in languages he never spoke. He was thrown from nightmare to nightmare, each designed to strip away certainty, to unravel his sense of self. He pressed his teeth together, sweat streaming down his temples. Reality bent, and for moments he almost believed the visions. But again and again, he forced himself back, gripping a single truth: the Inquisitor's illusions could not erase what was real. Humanity's story was not built by fear, it was built by persistence. At last, when the next illusion came, Kale did not resist. He saw Vaynar himself, towering, declaring the end of humanity. The chamber around him filled with alien delegates, laughing at Earth's downfall. And Kale laughed back. The sound was raw, broken, yet carried an edge of defiance sharp enough to silence the illusion. He laughed until the echo drowned out the chamber's hum. Is that it? He asked, voice hoarse but mocking. Fire, ashes, corpses, guilt? You think you're showing me anything new? We know death. We know loss. And we keep going anyway. That's what you'll never understand. The device sputtered, its glow faltering. Vaynar's face tightened, fury breaking through the cracks of control. He snapped his clawed fingers, and the illusions collapsed, leaving only the chamber's cold steel. Kale sagged in his chains, chest heaving, sweat soaking his uniform. His mind burned from the assault, but he was still himself, still whole. He lifted his head and locked eyes with Vaynar. You want to break the human mind? He rasped. Our strength isn't that we're unscarred. It's that we live with scars and keep moving. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Delegates watching through projection feeds stared, unsettled by the defiance in his tone. Vaynar stepped closer, his voice sharp with restrained rage. You cannot laugh forever, human. Tomorrow, I show you truths that no species endures. Kale's reply was quiet but unyielding. Then tomorrow, you'll see why we're still here. The guards dragged him back toward the cell, but Kale kept his gaze fixed forward, lips faintly curved despite exhaustion. The illusions had tried to break him with despair, but despair was nothing new. Humanity had lived beside it for millennia, and learned to rise beyond it. The council chamber buzzed with unease. Holoscreens above the dais replayed fragments of Kale's ordeals, the body convulsing under toxin, the laughter echoing through illusions meant to shatter him. The delegates of 100 species watched, their whispers weaving a storm of doubt and speculation. The Zifra citadel was built to project unity, but the chamber resembled a fractured hive. Some alien envoys leaned forward with hungry anticipation, eager for Kale's downfall. Others sat silent, troubled by what they had seen. On the highest throne, Inquisitor Vaynar addressed them all, his voice steady but edged. Do not be deceived by theatrics. The human appears defiant, but every creature cracks eventually. Tomorrow I will peel away the last layer of his mind. Humanity will be revealed as weak, unfit for the Alliance. A delegate of the Alarics, insectoid with wings like stained glass, hissed approval. They burn bright but brief. Their kind multiplies recklessly. Best to end their spark before it spreads. Yet across the chamber, a tall figure in silver-blue robes raised a hand. Ambassador Relora of the Cythery, an aquatic species known for calm diplomacy, spoke with deliberate weight. And yet he endures. No member species has lasted this far in the trial of endurance. To dismiss that is to dismiss evidence laid before us all. The chamber quieted. Relora's words carried influence. The Cythery rarely defended outsiders. Vaynar's gaze cut toward her, cold and sharp. Endurance without obedience is dangerous. Humanity refuses hierarchy. They resist order. That makes them a threat, not an asset. Relora tilted her head, her scaled face unreadable. Or perhaps it makes them something else, a species unwilling to surrender what defines them. She glanced toward the holoscreens replaying Kale's defiance. I have watched many break under your trials, Inquisitor. But this man. I do not see collapse. I see resolve. Whispers spread. Some delegates nodded subtly, others hissed in protest. The balance was shifting, if only slightly. Meanwhile, Kale sat chained in his cell below, unaware of the debates above but feeling the weight of unseen eyes. His body ached, his mind still scorched from illusions, yet his spirit remained alight. He whispered to himself, not prayers, but memories. His father's steady voice, stand tall, even when you can't stand steady. His mother's laughter, they can't take who you are. When the cell door opened again, Vaynar entered alone. He did not pace this time. He studied Kale in silence before speaking. You have caused noise, Vaynar said finally. Some see strength in you. Some question my judgment. His tone was controlled, but a shadow of irritation lingered beneath. Kale raised his head, lips cracked but curling into the faintest smile. Sounds like they're starting to see us as more than fragile animals. Vaynar leaned close, eyes narrowing. Do not mistake curiosity for respect. They will tire of you soon enough. Kale's reply came dry but steady. Maybe. Or maybe they'll start wondering why you can't do what you promised, break a human. The jab struck home. For the first time, the mask of calm faltered. Vaynar's jaw clenched, his voice dropping to a hiss. Tomorrow, I show them what happens when arrogance meets truth. You will beg for release, and humanity will fall silent in shame. Kale held his gaze unblinking. We don't beg. Not for chains. Not for mercy. We've already learned how to live without both. Vaynar's eyes flickered, then he turned sharply and left. The door sealed shut, leaving Kale in darkness once more. Above, the council's unrest deepened. Delegates who once dismissed humans now whispered privately. The Andari, beings of living crystal, murmured to each other in resonant tones. If he endures again, perhaps there will exceed what we imagined. Perhaps their fragility is deceptive. Others were less convinced. The Vraxian warlords snarled from their seats, their scaled hides bristling. They are vermin. Strength lies in conquest, not stubbornness. One man's defiance means nothing. Relora countered softly, yet her words carried across the chamber. One man can embody a people. You all saw his eyes. Pain, yes, but not submission. That is no small thing. The murmur of debate swelled. The citadel, designed to enforce unity, now hosted fracture lines widening by the hour. In the shadows of a quiet observation deck, Relora met with another figure cloaked in black, Envoy Serac of the Torvali, a species known for neutrality. His multifaceted eyes reflected the starlight beyond the viewport. You defend the human openly, Serac said, voice like glass shards sliding. Why risk your standing? Relora's reply was calm. Because I see something in him that the Dominion fears. They expect species to bow or shatter. He does either. Serac tilted his head. You believe humans could be allies? I believe, Relora said, that if they survive this, none will ever underestimate them again. That could shift the balance of the alliance. Serac considered in silence, then gave a slow, deliberate nod. That night cycle, Kale lay awake in his cell. Sleep was impossible. His body trembled from strain, yet his mind refused rest. He knew tomorrow would bring something worse, something deeper than illusions or toxins. But fear no longer held him. He thought of Earth, not the wars, not the ashes, but the small things. Children kicking a ball on cracked pavement. Strangers sharing umbrellas in rain. Musicians playing in subway tunnels. Humanity's strength had never been its weapons. It was in the refusal to stop living even when the world demanded silence. He whispered to the dark. They don't understand. They never will. The next council session opened with greater tension than before. Delegates sat straighter, eyes fixed on the trial floor. The air itself felt charged, as if the citadel's walls held their breath. Vaynar entered with his usual poise, though his movements were sharper, edged with irritation. He raised his arms to the assembly. Today ends this farce. You will see the human for what he is, fragile mind, fragile spirit. I will show you truths that none can endure. By the next cycle, the word unbreakable will be a memory. Kale was brought forward, shackled but upright, steps slow yet steady. His uniform was torn, blood dried at the edges, but his eyes were bright, carrying that same defiance that unsettled so many. As the guards fixed him to the platform, he glanced around at the gallery of species. For the first time, he saw hesitation in their eyes, not scorn, not pity, but something new. He faced the crowd, voice low but carrying. You've seen what they tried already. Pain. Cold. Fear. Illusions. And I'm still here. Humanity's still here. Tomorrow, next year, 100 years from now, we'll still be here. The chamber fell silent. His words were not a speech, not theatrics, just truth spoken from the edge of endurance. Relora lowered her gaze, hiding a small, knowing smile. The seed had taken root. Inquisitor Vaynar's voice shattered the silence. Prepare the final trial. Let us see how long his words last when the mind itself is torn open. Kale's reply came without hesitation. Do your worst. The guards locked the restraints. The chamber darkened, and the stage was set for the shattering point. The chamber was stripped of sound. No murmurs from the gallery, no hiss of vents, only silence, sharp as a blade. Kale stood bound in the center, chains cutting into his wrists, the platform beneath him thrumming with hidden power. High Inquisitor Vaynar descended the dais, his crimson robes trailing like spilled blood. His eyes gleamed with cold certainty. Pain has not broken you. Illusions have not bent you. Today, I strip away the last defenses. Today, I tear you open until nothing remains. Kale's lips, cracked and dry, curved faintly. You've been saying that for days. The reply rippled through the council chamber. Some delegates shifted uneasily, others leaned forward. Vaynar's gaze narrowed. Without another word, he raised his hand. The device above Kale ignited, an orb of interlocking shards, humming with psychic resonance. Tendrils of light lanced into Kale's mind, bypassing nerves, bypassing flesh, drilling directly into memory and thought. Kale's breath hitched as reality dissolved. He stood on Earth, but not the Earth he remembered. Skies blackened, seas poisoned, entire continents fractured into wastelands. Towers of bone rose where cities had been. Billions lay silent, their eyes accusing him. Vaynar's voice echoed across the devastation. This is humanity's future. Extinction, inevitable and deserved. Every choice you made leads here. You endure only to delay the collapse. Kale staggered through the ruins, boots crunching over ash. His lungs filled with the stench of rot. His chest tightened, grief surging. He wanted to deny it, but the images pressed too deep, too vivid. Then he remembered, this wasn't prophecy. It was construction. An illusion twisted from fear, not truth. He steadied his breath, though his voice shook. You show me endings, but endings aren't new to us. We've rebuilt before. We'll rebuild again. The ruins rippled, but Vaynar pressed harder. Kale's perspective shifted. He stood on a battlefield, but this time it wasn't strangers, it was his own hands firing the weapons, his own orders leading to death. Comrades screamed, collapsing one by one. Blood soaked his boots. The faces of the fallen turned toward him, lips moving in silent accusation. You killed them, Vaynar whispered. Your strength destroyed those who trusted you. Every scar you wear is their fault, but their blood is yours. Kale dropped to his knees, heart hammering. The guilt was raw, tearing deeper than any poison. He had seen those faces before in memory, but never like this, never so alive, never so accusing. For a moment, the weight crushed him. His throat closed. Maybe Vaynar was right. Maybe every act of endurance was built on graves. Then another memory rose, unbidden. The final moments of Corporal Rena, her bloodied face, smiling as she pressed her hand to his shoulder. Keep going. Make it mean something. Their sacrifice hadn't chained him, it had lit a fire. They hadn't died because he was weak. They had fought so others would live. Kale forced his eyes open, staring into the illusion of their faces. His voice cracked, but carried steel. You think their deaths break me? No. They're the reason I don't stop. Every step I take is because of them. The battlefield trembled. The bodies dissolved into smoke. Vaynar snarled, shattering the silence. The device pulsed brighter, stabbing deeper into Kale's mind. You cannot hold forever. Even your memory will betray you. The world shifted again. This time Kale stood in a chamber of mirrors. Each reflection showed him broken, screaming, begging, surrendering. Thousands of versions of himself shattered piece by piece. This is your truth, Vaynar hissed. Every path ends with your surrender. Look. Accept it. Kale's chest heaved. The images pressed close, filling every angle. For an instant, he felt them pulling him apart, whispering that resistance was pointless, that surrender was written into his very nature. But surrender had never been truth. Humanity had never been defined by perfection, by invincibility. They had always faltered, always fallen, but always stood again. That was the truth. Cale's lips parted. He began to laugh. It was hoarse, broken, but it rang louder with each breath. The echoes cut through the chamber, shattering the oppressive silence. "You're right," he said between ragged breaths. "We break. We fail. We bleed. But that's not the end. It never has been. We keep getting back up. That's what you don't understand." The reflections trembled. Shards fell away, vanishing into nothing. Cale looked upward, chains rattling as he pulled against them. "You can't break what was forged in fire. Every scar makes us harder to kill. Every loss makes us stronger." The device flickered violently, its glow sputtering. In the council gallery, gasps spread. Delegates who had once dismissed humanity now leaned forward, struck silent by the defiance radiating from one battered man chained on the platform. Rellora of the Cythery whispered to herself, almost reverent. "He is not yielding. He is rising." Even the hardened Vraxian warlords shifted uneasily. For them, strength was conquest. Yet what they witnessed now was strength of another kind, unyielding, rooted in something they could not extinguish. Vaynar, his composure cracking, forced the device to its peak. Energy shrieked, stabbing into Cale's mind with blinding force. Cale's vision exploded into light. Every fear, every doubt, every grief surged all at once, threatening to drown him in a storm of himself. He swayed, nearly collapsing. His knees buckled, breath shallow. For a heartbeat, he teetered on the edge of breaking. Then, he thought of Earth again. Not burning, not dying, but living. Children running through streets lit with neon signs. Farmers laughing in fields under rain. A song carried on a night wind. Humanity was not just its scars. It was its stubborn joy, its relentless refusal to vanish. Cale straightened, chains biting deep. His voice thundered, hoarse but unshakable. "We are not fragile. We are not prey. We are the storm that survives every fire. You will never break us." The device cracked. Sparks flew. Vaynar staggered back, eyes wide. The chamber filled with gasps as the construct shattered into fragments, scattering across the platform like falling stars. Cale sagged in his chains, barely upright, sweat and blood streaking his face. Yet his eyes blazed. He looked at the Inquisitor and spoke through clenched teeth. "You've failed." For a moment, silence ruled. Then voices erupted, shock, outrage, awe. The council chamber had never heard anything like it. Vaynar stood frozen, fury boiling behind his mask of authority. His trial had never failed. Until now. Cale, swaying but unbroken, whispered to himself, too quiet for most to hear. "This is what it means to be human." The fragments of the shattered device still glimmered across the platform like dying stars. Smoke curled upward, and the silence that followed was heavier than any sound. Cale swayed in his chains, every breath a battle, yet he stood. Blood streaked his brow, sweat dampened his torn uniform, but his eyes burned with the same defiance that had carried him through every trial. High Inquisitor Vaynar froze on the dais, crimson robes shrouding a figure that had never known defeat. For the first time, doubt shadowed his face. His weapon had failed. His methods had failed. His certainty had failed. The council erupted in a storm of voices. The crystalline Quarati chimed in disbelief. The insected Alarics screeched protests. The Andari delegates whispered resonant tones of awe. Arguments layered over each other, every word fueled by shock. Through the chaos, Ambassador Relora's calm voice cut clear. "You all witnessed it. The trial of endurance has never left a subject standing. Yet this human stands." The uproar dimmed, though unease still rippled through the tiers. Some delegates bristled, unwilling to accept what they had seen. Others stared at Cale, as if seeing him for the first time. Vaynar regained his composure with effort, his voice slicing across the chamber. "Do not be deceived. He is broken, look at him. His body trembles, his mind frayed. This display is no strength, only refusal to admit defeat. Kale lifted his head, the chains rattling. His voice was hoarse, scraped raw by screams he had never given, but it carried. You call that broken? Broken is giving up. Broken is silence. I am still here. That means I won. The words struck harder than any weapon. Even those who doubted felt the weight of them. The council, so used to submission, now faced something different, an endurance that refused to yield. Relora rose from her seat, her silver-blue robes flowing. Inquisitor, you claimed humanity was fragile. Yet fragility does not withstand your trials. Fragility does not survive poison, suffocation, and illusions designed to tear identity apart. Fragility does not laugh when confronted with despair. What we have seen is not weakness. It is resilience. Murmurs spread. Even the Vraxian warlords, once scornful, sat with narrowed eyes, reconsidering. Vaynar's voice sharpened. Resilience without obedience is rebellion. Do not mistake defiance for virtue. Kale seized the moment, forcing strength into his voice. Resilience without obedience is freedom. You think power is control. You think strength means bowing to fear. Humanity has never bowed. We have buried our dead, rebuilt our ruins, carried scars like banners, and kept going. You can chain us, burn us, bury us, but we will rise. That is who we are. The chamber fell into silence, the echo of his words hanging in the air. Delegates shifted, some glancing at one another, some unable to look away from Kale. Vaynar stepped forward, fury edging his every movement. Enough. This spectacle ends here. Humanity will not. Will not what? Kale interrupted, his voice cutting clean. His body trembled, but his tone was iron. Will not survive? Look at me. You tried to end me, and I am still standing. You wanted to prove we could be broken, and you failed. The galaxy has its answer. Humanity cannot be broken. The declaration cracked through the chamber like thunder. For a long moment, silence held sway. Then Relora stood taller, her voice carrying authority. The trial has spoken. Whatever our differences, the outcome is undeniable. Humanity endured. Other delegates began to rise, some reluctantly, some with newfound conviction. The Andari resonated approval in deep harmonics. Even the Quarati, who had mocked before, flickered with uncertain acknowledgement. One by one, voices joined. The tide was shifting. Vaynar's composure shattered. He slammed a clawed hand against the dais, his voice booming. You fools! This is not strength, it is defiance dressed as glory. Humanity is chaos, a danger to us all. If you let them stand, they will one day turn this same defiance against you. Kale met his glare, voice quiet but carrying like steel. Maybe. Or maybe we'll stand beside them when their enemies come. Because that's what we do, we endure together. You can fear us, but you will never own us. The chamber's mood crystallized. The council, divided only hours before, now leaned towards something rare, respect. Not love, not trust, but respect carved by defiance that had survived the unthinkable. Relora spoke again, sealing the moment. The trial of endurance was designed to reveal weakness. Instead, it revealed strength. Humanity has proven itself. Let the record show they endured. The gavel-like sound of agreement struck, final and resonant. Vaynar stood frozen, fury carved into every line of his face. He had lost. The Dominion's power, his authority, his reputation, all undermined by one man who refused to break. Kale's chains were unfastened. He staggered, legs buckling, but he refused to fall. He stood in the center of the chamber, every wound visible, every scar laid bare. And yet he stood. He turned slowly, addressing not just the council but every eye fixed on him. His voice was raw but unwavering. You all came here to watch a man break. Instead, you watched a truth too many forget: strength isn't in never falling, It's an always rising. Humanity carries that truth in every step. And now you've seen it for yourselves. Silence followed, but it was no longer the silence of doubt. It was silence heavy with realization. Vayner turned away, his robe snapping like a severed banner. For the first time, he did not speak. His defeat was already written in the eyes of the galaxy. Kale lifted his head one final time, exhaustion pressing on him but pride burning brighter. You wanted to know who we are. Now you do! As the guards guided him from the chamber, Relora's voice echoed softly across the tiers, carrying a truth none could deny. On this day, the galaxy learned, humanity cannot be broken,